The show is brought to you by our generous patrons at patreon.com/FalloutLorecast.
Robots Radio presents
the Fallout Lorecast.
Welcome to the Fallout Lorecast, a place for the Fallout community to come together to explore the boundaries of our knowledge about the world of Fallout. Wastelanders, Vault Dwellers, welcome back to the Fallout Lorecast. This is the first episode of the new year, and this is also a big deal because we finally have approval to get you guys the interview that I was hoping to release in the middle of December. It is now the new year, and Bethesda was on vacation, basically. A lot of people were on vacation in the middle and towards the end of December, and we were waiting to get approval on this interview. Ken from Fallout 76 podcast, you guys know the shows. You're all familiar with all the shows. Ken and I do the Fallout Hub show together. We had the opportunity to interview two of the devs from Fallout 76, and we've been sitting on this interview for weeks now. This was the episode that I was hoping to get out a few weeks ago, and now we can actually get it out to you. So stay tuned. That's what's coming. Do note that, of course, this was an interview. It was done over Zoom. It was a live interview. It was streamed at the time. So if you happen to catch that during all of the Fallout for Hope stuff, this was something that showed up live during that. But then, of course, it was recorded, it was archived, and it had to go and be put away in order to get full approval for the recorded version to go back out. So the audio quality isn't perfect. I've cleaned it up as best as I can, but there's definitely some audio canceling that happens when one person talks and then another person talks. And then some people's mics are a little bit better than others. So please be patient with the audio quality, but I think the content is really good. We got to ask a lot of questions about the most recent event going on in Fallout 76, that, of course, the patch that came out in December, and then some of the stuff that's going down the pipeline. And this is the first time we got to interview these two guests, who I'm going to introduce as soon as I got done, talking to you right here during the intro of this episode. So stay tuned for that. And then Happy New Year, everybody. This is going to be an exciting year for the Fallout Lorecast. I'm going to be digging into more Fallout 76 lore this year. We're going to get back to some more lore-focused episodes with just me. That's where things are going once we move past this episode and into some more of the regular episodes for this year. We're transitioning back to a kind of a different schedule because I'm not going to have as many of the, talking heads co-host kind of shows, because I'm doing this by myself now for a while. We've had some of those again at the end of last year with the What If series, and I think it's time to dig back into Fallout 76 lore specifically and get into some of the things that I haven't covered yet with that game in particular. And so get ready for that. The episodes are going to be a lot more like the way the show was at the beginning of the show. A little bit shorter episodes, but a lot more focused on lore dumps. Just information in your face and ethical questions and things like that. So that's where we're going with it. And I hope you guys enjoy the interview. So without further ado, here you go.
Hello there, old chap. Good to see another of General Atomic's finest, still eager to serve.
I'm Tom, or Robots, and this is Ken from the Chat at Fallout 76 podcast, and we both are on the Fallout Hub. And so welcome, everybody. And we are here with some very special guests today. Senior Quest Designer Carl McKevitt and Art Director John Rush from Fallout 76. Welcome, guys.
Hello, thanks for having us.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for taking the time to join us today to answer some questions. It is always exciting for both Ken and I to get to talk to you guys. Big fans of all of your work, and I know that you don't always get the time. I know you guys are very busy to be able to answer questions about the games that you work on, but thank you for taking that time to talk with us.
Yeah, of course.
We like to start out our interviews with some quick questions. This is the Robots Dozen. Don't think too hard about these. These are meant to be just quick, top of mind, loosen you up, just kind of throw out the first thing that comes to mind. And these are supposed to be real fast because we want to get real juicy stuff. So we're going to go back and forth. We're going to start with Carl. The first question is, ready?
Mm-hmm.
If you could have any superpower, what would it be?
Freezing things.
Freezing things?
I don't know why.
Carl is an immediate villain.
Like Iceman.
Yeah, Iceman's a goodish guy. So,
yeah, he started out mostly good. Yeah. Okay.
Like cryo Carl.
It is my attraction towards wordplay like that.
I like it. All right, let's move over to John. John, where would you go if I was to just all of a sudden give you a time machine?
Boy, that's a tough one. Where would I go if you gave me a time machine?
Right. First thing,
I think I'd have to go back to the times of the knights and castles and damsels in distress.
Nice. Medieval Europe?
Yeah, there you go.
Any specific country?
We'll have to go with Scotland.
Scotland. Go over to Scotland. Man, everyone would look at you like, what are you talking about? And every other word they wouldn't understand. That would be amazing.
Exactly.
That would be so cool. And then you'd get like burned at the stake. They think you're like a witch or something. That would be great.
I was gonna say there's plagues and inquisitions and those sorts of things, but
right.
It'll be all right.
Yeah, he's
just be visiting. Just be visiting the place, you know.
All right, back to Carl. What is your favorite quote?
Oh no.
That's your favorite quote?
That's a great one.
It is now. It is a quote from my wife on this Post-it note that says, "P.S. Do your time cards." That's my favorite quote.
What's your favorite quote? Hey,
I'm an adult and I need to be reminded to fill out time cards.
Hey, it's going to keep you out of trouble. So right now, that makes sense to be your favorite quote. I like that. All right, John. Is there intelligent life out in the universe?
Absolutely.
That was boom. Yeah. All right. Back to Carl. How would you get an elephant into a refrigerator?
A hacksaw.
That's a messy way to do it.
Carl, what is going on there with the ice and the murdering at an elephant with a hacksaw?
I mean, the ice powers would probably make it a little bit easier to break apart. So maybe I should have said sledgehammer. That would have.
Oh man,
that would have helped.
Is that better?
More convenient.
Cultists are starting to kind of get to him a bit. I think he's kind of
freezing real hard, and then you just like whack off all the limbs with a sledgehammer, and then they just crack. Right?
That's how you do it.
Stuff all the pieces in the refrigerator. I can see where you go. All right, John. What 3 items would you take to a desert island other than food and water?
3 items would I take other than food and water? Well, you have to have cigars.
Okay.
You have to have a lighter for the cigar, of course.
There you go. All right.
I'd probably bring. I'd probably bring a solar-powered fan.
All right. Cigar, lighter, fan.
Solar-powered fan. Very important.
Solar-powered fan. Right.
Yeah. No electric outlets on the island.
Obviously, and then food and water. I thought maybe you were going to go with like bourbon and just kind of be like
living the life.
Yeah.
Now he's regretting his choices.
Yeah, now I'm thinking about it.
All right. Well, you're going to be living it up on that island. All right. Let's go back to Carl. Carl, why are manhole covers round?
Let's see.
Ladies and gentlemen, listen to the car. This is called dead air.
Yes, this is. I've never been more perplexed by a question.
Wow. They're not square.
Because they're not. Yeah, that was the first thing, but it wasn't a satisfying answer.
I mean,
Nope.
people are around.
Nope. Oh, nope. Got nothing.
Around.
Sorry.
No answer. There's no good
No
answer.
answer. There is no good answer for why.
The answer is that there is no good answer.
Yes.
All right. Now, Ken, you wrote this one. Is the first word on this one supposed to be who?
No, it should be how.
Okay. All right. So I was wondering about that because it didn't make sense to me, but I didn't know if maybe you're just getting weird with this one. How would you title your autobiography? You can see why who would be weird on that one. John?
For me, how would you title it?
How would you title your autobiography?
How would I title my autobiography? That's a good one.
Like you have an answer.
Did you just laugh at your own answer before giving it?
I'm going through stuff where some of it's, not appropriate.
You went into your mind palace to review different ideas. And
How would I title my autobiography? Boy, I don't know, man.
He does know. He just can't share it.
That's a great one. I don't know, man.
For some suggestions, I think.
Calling a friend.
Calling a friend. That's a viable option.
let's go with the better half of Tucker and Rush.
Oh,
A story of music.
thank you, Carl. I appreciate that.
Some inside story. Yeah. So our director is Mark Tucker, who works in collaboration with Mr. Rush pretty often, and they have a band who I've yet to see perform, though I believe that they did during a company talent show. Tucker and Rush. You guys did do something, right?
It's actually
It's Rush and Tucker. It is not Rush and Tucker. It is.
Oh, no.
It is absolutely Tucker and Rush.
We've kind of gone the way of Loggins and Messina. It's like, well, who's Messina? He used to put, that's kind of Tucker. He's had his diva moments, and it was just time for us to part ways. But Oxygen Network is doing a kind of a documentary on us, sort of like the Beatles. Except they're. It's certainly not one-sided. It's directed by me, but it kind of goes. It's called Get Out. It's not Get Back. It's Get Out. A little bit.
Perfect.
So much for really quick answers.
Oh yeah.
Oh, isn't even the best drummer in the Beatles. All right. How about we go back to Carl? Carl, cat or dog?
Dog. Always dog.
That is the right answer. John, what do you think of garden gnomes?
I'm in favor of garden gnomes.
What was that?
I'm in favor of garden gnomes. I think garden gnomes would make excellent turrets.
That would actually be hilarious if they were secret ones where their mouth would just drop open. And
Well, I just know what I want to recommend for the Atom Shop now.
Carl's making notes.
Their mouths open like the little Nutcracker guys for holiday.
Exactly.
Their mouths go, and then there's like a little gun turret that goes out
Just
of them.
like the Robin Williams movie Toys. Do you remember that little doll walking along the hallway and then like the chin came out her mouth?
Comes out and then they just go. Bah.
Garden gnomes are they're like Smurf mannequins.
Yes,
That's a garden gnome.
yes, I like it. All right, Carl. Last question. Settler, Brotherhood, or Raider?
I'd say Settler.
Settler.
I'm a pretty non-violent kind of guy.
You're a
Yeah,
fan.
that's the impression we've gotten with you chopping up frozen elephants.
Nobody said the elephant was still alive. I just want to say it may have been a butcher situation. I had to deal with,
I'm just saying, that seems pretty Raider to me. So you say what you want, but I think we know the real answer here.
Okay, Settler, who is a low-key raider, secretly planning to lead an invasion. We'll go with that.
All right. I'm going to alter this last one just a hair to make it more Fallout centric. John, money is no object. You have all the caps that you could possibly have, and tomorrow you can do anything you want. And you're in the wasteland. What do you do?
What do I do with all the caps in the wasteland? I give it to somebody who just came out of the vault.
Aww. Aww.
See, Carl, now, John, that's a real settler type.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I'll kill the player that he gave the caps to. I'll take the caps for myself.
Shove them in the refrigerator.
It's the strangest thing. The body was found in a fridge, frozen and chopped up into pieces.
And yet the fridge wasn't plugged in. How did it freeze? We'll never know.
Powered fridge, obviously, Carl.
It was solar powered. There was a solar powered fan in the fridge.
Yeah, exactly.
And they found a cigar sitting on the corner of the fridge for some reason.
It all connects back.
Who left the cigar? Storytelling. All right. Thank you for answering the Robots Dozen questions. You are now officially part of the show, and we also have a readout here. Let me pull this up. All right, you've secretly taken your VATs, and it is telling me now, Carl, that you are you're set up to be a professional dog walker. Congratulations.
You mean the goat?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry, your goat. That
was to trick me, right? That was
that was part of it. Yes, your goat. Yes, and you're a professional dog walker. And John, it says that you are a is this right? A Republican politician. That's what the goat says. Welcome to the show, and let's get on with some questions. So first of all, let's get into a little bit of your background, Carl. How did you get started with gaming?
It's gonna sound like a joke, but it's not. Actually, I learned Korean, and by knowing Korean, I was able to get a job writing a summary on a Korean MMO game that a company was considering to bring over here. They needed somebody who had some game design background. Coming out of college, I had game design as my background, and they needed somebody who could actually play this game in Korean. Which I did. I wrote up a 60-page document. That person immediately left the company, never reading it, but brought me to their next job. And then it was a long string of opportunities after that. So a little bit of luck and a little bit of knowledge of a foreign language. That's how I broke in.
Wow, that's a really roundabout way to do it. That's like. That's crazy. Now, John, how did you get started in gaming and in the industry?
Yeah, so I think like probably all of us here, I've played games since I was just a little kid, all the way back to, I'm about to age myself, all the way back to the Atari, beating my dad at Donkey Kong. And, it's just playing them all through high school and through some of college. And towards the end of college, I was studying studio art, and I was kind of wondering what I was going to do with that degree, maybe teach or something. And I started to notice like a lot of the similarities in how the art for games was made weighed against what I was doing in school. And so they just kind of fit together. And I thought, well, this is something I absolutely have to do. So spent about a year or so learning the software. It wasn't taught at my school at the time. There wasn't much online about it. So a lot of trial and error, and then ended up sending out about 100 emails. Hey, hire me. And eventually somebody said yes. So that's all it took was one person to say yes. And here I am.
Wow. That's cool. That's really neat. Now for each of you, and we'll go back to Carl on this one. When did you first discover Fallout?
It is something I was aware of. I was not and this is sacrilegious to say, I was not a PC gamer growing up. So I'm sorry. So in fact, I had bought Morrowind for the PC and was unable to play it because my PC was not powerful enough. So I had to wait or a year or two, I guess, until the Xbox version came out, and I played on there. That was my introduction into the Elder Scrolls and Greater Bethesda family. But for the older versions, that was a thing I saw in magazines, and I was like, that looks cool. I'll never be able to play that. So going into Fallout 3 was kind of my opportunity to say, hey, this is made by a studio that I love. It's a property I've heard of. Super exciting. I got pre-ordered the special edition with the lunchbox, which I had Todd Howard and Emil both sign.
That's awesome.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and had to sneak back into the office to get it back before somebody stole it because, But that was kind of I kind of came from it at almost an Elder Scrolls angle, where I was a big fan of Elder Scrolls and the Bethesda by extension, and so I just kind of said I trust that if they think this was a really cool property, that I'm also going to love this property. And sure enough, I did.
Now, what do you specifically love about Fallout? Like, what about it made you kind of fall in love with it?
I think there's just something about the aesthetic. This it is the future, but it's also not the future. It is a nostalgia for a thing that has never actually existed before. I'm a big fan of stuff from the 1950s, 1960s time period, even newer stuff that's set in that, like Mad Men as an example. So that I've always kind of enjoyed that vibe, and having a unique spin on it of it's both the future and it's futuristic technology, but it's also from that time and then the apocalypse. It's all just kind of it's such a unique setting that, like, you know, there's nothing else really like it.
Yeah, John, what about you?
Well, I mean, I had played Fallout since the series began, but I think when it really kind of sank its teeth into me was with 3, 3, and of course 4. Just being drawn to, I love the open exploration, exploring all the little details of the world, taking the time to read through the terminals and the stories and sort of piecing together everything that happened. I love that contrast between the 1950s feel plus that, apocalyptic wasteland, and trying to find the sweet spot in between the two. I think Fallout's always done a fantastic job with that.
Yeah.
It's also a great space for humor. It's a game that can get very dark. It can get very serious, cover some really serious themes, but it also never takes itself seriously enough that it can't have fun with it. And so, I always enjoy that. And I think in a lot of my quests, they can get a little bit wacky, but that's also, it's one of my favorite parts of the series.
Right. Yeah. Ken and I talk a lot about this, how Fallout can hit both extremes. It can both be very dark and very serious. And it talks about like the deepest, darkest sides of humanity, but it can also be super silly and super wacky at the same time. Like, and in some ways, that's the way we as humans deal with those dark things is with humor. So it runs that whole spectrum, which is part of what's so interesting and enjoyable about the Fallout series.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I have to say, I was fortunate that I only joined the company back in 2018, so I came in as a fan. So it's been pretty thrilling to be able to write for that really unique setting that I literally couldn't write about that setting anywhere but here. So it's worked out pretty well. So the setting is a big deal.
Do you still have moments where, because you've been such a fan, you walk into the office and you're just like, this is real. This is my life.
Yeah, no, and all the time there are surreal moments of like, I can't believe I just witnessed that or was a part of that, and I can't tell you about any of it, but it is one surreal, awesome moment after another for sure.
So, Carl, how would you explain what exactly is quest design to you? Like, sure. when you take that on, like what is that?
It is a position that's very different at various companies. In some places, quest designer just means writer. You are writing the quest structure, and there's somebody who will implement that content. In some cases, it is just the implementer. It's somebody who has a team of writers who writes what the content will be and the dialogue, and they implement that vision of it. At Bethesda, we have we call it kind of a unicorn in terms of the skill set. It's a combination of both creating the content and writing the content at the same time. And it's really challenging, but it's super rewarding as well. But just in terms of what we do for the games that everybody plays, if it is a quest that appears in your Pip-Boy, either a quest designer or a level designer has put that in. For most of what's in 76, especially the main quests, and really anything that has a lot of dialogue in it, a quest designer is the person who put all the steps in that the player has to do to complete that quest and wrote all the dialogue for it. And also coordinated with the other teams on creating the rewards, the looks for the NPCs, all those sorts of things. Everything is super collaborative, but It's we're kind of the person who puts in every step of the way to get from the quest to beginning to end.
So how does that relate to level design? Like, what's the distinction there?
It depends on if we're planning to build content for an area that has already been designed. Sometimes a dungeon has been created as just an exploration space, and later we decide, hey, we want to put a story in there. Or if it's a story that is taking place in a new space. So Steel Rain is a good example. Harper's Ferry train tunnel, that was a new space. That was a huge effort by level design, by art, very collaborative to kind of both first come up with what happens down there, but then also build the space around it. So that in that case, it is a hand in hand, every step along the way, quest, level design, and art's working together. In other cases, quest design's coming into a space that level has already created, and it's more of a talking with them about the space and any improvements you can make. But sometimes, it really just depends on the context.
Makes sense. That makes sense. So in quest design, you also get involved with the writing and the scripting. Like, is that part of your role?
Yes. I won't take any credit as the greatest scripter on the planet, but it is something that we are in charge of. We have engineers who help us out and that sort of thing. But when it comes to quest design, we often have to make our bed and then lie in it when it comes to that work. So if we have a really ambitious, cool idea for something that the player does along the way, it takes it's a team effort, but it comes down to us to try to actually implement that content.
In a way, it's almost like you're director of like a mini play, or like almost like a mini anthology, in that you're directing, you're writing, you're coordinating with different teams. Even though in title it means something very different in game design. It's kind of what you do.
Yeah, it can feel that way for sure. Sometimes we are, I'd say, a member of the band, and you, especially if we're writing for content that is a system or outside of a straight quest or something like that. But when it comes to a quest itself, we often have to kind of carry the torch on what that content is, because everybody has so much work to do all the time that you've got to basically be the person who's got the eye on your quest to make sure everything's getting done there for it.
Yeah. So Fallout 76, being that it is a multiplayer version of Fallout, there's, in creating these story quests, I'm sure there are some differences between creating a quest in Fallout 76 as opposed to creating something for just a fully single player game. Even though you can go through those storylines single player.
Yeah, for sure.
When you talk about the differences between creating like a quest line for a fully single player game versus 76, because like it is different. And this is one of those things that, like, as a player, I can feel that it's a little bit different, but to me, I can just jump in and play it.
Right.
But from your perspective, I'm sure it's a much bigger thing than we would understand as players.
Yeah, and I can really only speak to my own experience, because it's a large team that built the quests that are in there, and a lot of consideration goes into each of them. But for the quests that I have worked on personally, one of the big factors that always has to be kept in mind is that there's only so much impact that we can allow the player to really do before we start to make it difficult for the future moving forward. So there's only, we can't, as an example, allow the player to nuke. Well, that's not true. They could nuke a place, but to nuke away, and the way that at the beginning at Fallout 3 in the Tenpenny Tower, you can destroy a megaton, and that makes a permanent crater in the world. Those are the types of impacts we really can't pursue. So we try to find ways to make the story more meaningful to the player on a personal level, and not necessarily on a massive environmental way. That said, I feel like that restriction in mind hasn't really changed many of the ideas that we want to do when it comes to storytelling. 76, I feel like, has really let us craft the stories we wanted to tell. And it's always a consideration in the back of our heads that, like, we got to remember that this is a world full of players who are also on their own adventures. We want them to feel like they're making significant choices, but at the same time, we've also got to keep the fabric of the universe of 76 in one piece for all the different players that are in it.
It's time for that spring reset. I'm taking a look at everything in my closet and figuring out that, oh no, this absolutely needs to go. And it's about time I replace things so that my clothes aren't older than my 15-year-old. Now you might think that they lasted that long because they were well made, but no, they're in terrible condition. Unlike the new jeans I just got from Quince. Jeans have always been my personal go-to because you can kind of wear them for lots of different things, but maybe they're not your thing. Maybe you're looking for, 100% European linen with insanely soft flow knit activewear fabric. It's definitely getting warmer, and their flow knit activewear is moisture wicking, anti-odor, and soft enough that you'll actually want to wear it every day. So pick out what you want. You can't go wrong because they have prices 50 to 60% less than similar brands. And like I said before, they are high quality. I continue to wear their clothes all the time, and I know that these new jeans are going to last me a lot better than the other things in my wardrobe. And on top of it, they look great. They're so comfortable, and I spent just as much on the jeans that I am now cleaning out of my wardrobe. So if you're looking for something better, just all around better, go check out Quince. So go do it right now. Refresh your wardrobe with Quince. Go to quince.com/falloutlore for free shipping and 365-day returns. Now available in Canada too. Go to quince.com/falloutlore for free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/falloutlore. Yeah, that's interesting because there's the distinctions between the things that affect everybody and the things that affect you, and your emotional relationships with certain characters are definitely things that are more focused on you than necessarily other people. Whereas, if all of a sudden, a certain part of the map just disappeared, you couldn't necessarily implement that for everyone. So that makes sense.
Yep.
Yeah.
The Red Rocket Collectron was something that you contributed to in terms of design and dialogue. Did the design of him come from any particular source? And in a way, he's a lot like very 1950s sci-fi comic.
I'll let John take that one.
Yeah, so there was, so I'm not sure who the original artist was. It was one of the concept artists, I believe, for Fallout 4, had painted out this robot, just like a waist up for a Red Rocket commercial. And I think it was hanging up by our coffee machine in the office or something. I was like, that would make a really cool Collectron. So, let's flesh out the rest of it. So, drew out, we concepted out the rest of the Collectron, had that built out, and collaborated with animation and with design on what type of personality this character would have, how it recharges, right? How it goes up to the kind of Red Rocket station and then plugs itself back in, and the head sort of bobs up and down.
The animation of that is so cool.
Yeah, so kind of inspired by an idea from art that had been done internally for a previous iteration of Fallout, and then express that idea to the different disciplines, and everybody just kind of gets together, and there you go.
Periodically, because Fallout has been cranking on for a long time now. Every now and then, do you take a look back or happen to see something that was maybe an early concept sketch or from a previous game? You think, what if we could bring this into 76?
All the time, absolutely, yeah. So something I've noticed in the game industry from working on other games is that it's always good to, especially on games as a service, right, that continue on and continue on. It's always good to go back and look at where it started, right, to see if you veered too far away from what the original vision of the title was, or if there's room to expand on that anymore. So yeah, constantly we've got a great library of past concept for Fallout 3 and Fallout 4. And it's always good to go through and look at that, see what people were thinking, even stuff that wasn't used, especially stuff that wasn't used. There's always little ideas like lurking in the corners of these concepts that prompt new ideas that are very relevant to the game. Yeah,
it's a nice bit of continuity and a little bit of nostalgia too.
Yeah, it's really important, and there's kind of a sort of a fine line that you have to walk between referencing that material and then simply just repeating yourself, right? Oh, we're going to do this again. It's it's another helmet with spikes. So it's another helmet with spikes. You always have to find ways to make it fresh. Some small thing to make it seem new.
During the when we were all playing, before we actually got onto the stream, there was some conversation about the Enclave items in the Atom Shop, and how there kind of callbacks to some very early art that showed up in Fallout 1 with Enclave stuff in the bunker, I believe, in the what was it, the Master's bunker, or no, it was was it Horrigan's bunker? What was that?
It was actually that kind of that Enclave base that you find Frank Horrigan in. Yeah,
Frank Horrigan, right? Yeah, and how that was a reference, and that's really cool. I guess that's a representation of kind of pulling these references from previous work and bringing them back and kind of redoing them. Would you say that that's kind of an example?
Sure. Yeah. Especially with the Atomic Shop, one of the challenges is to introduce these new things that'll enrich players' experiences, get them to be able to play how they feel like they want to play the game, but also not conflict with lore, right? So, looking at the timeline and the continuity, Frank Horrigan can possibly exist, right, in 76, but we could reference some of the shapes and some of the language that was going on with the power armor and kind of reimagine something different, but that is still very much Enclave. And so that same sort of mentality applied to the power armor and to the turrets, to the laser field doors, right? This is what they would look like if the Enclave had those, and keeping it nice and consistent from that Fallout on up to where we are now. Yeah.
It would make sense that the Enclave would be into a certain kind of design aesthetic, even if things were kind of from a different time period. It would still make sense that they would like a certain aesthetic. So
sure, yeah. Enclave should look very very engineered, even almost manufactured, a little higher tech than other things you might find in the world, right? The shapes for the Enclave things, they won't be so simple. They'll have a little bit more complex silhouettes to them. It just makes them stand out from like Brotherhood of Steel items, right? Or even items like that you'd find with Carl's fellow settlers.
The blue. yeah. The actual set. I thought you meant the Blu-ray. I was gonna say.
It's the small things that, in culmination, when you see them all at once, it's what makes the Enclave.
Right.
Yeah. It looks like they had more sophistication around the design than being kind of hodgepodge together out in the wasteland.
Yes, exactly.
Right. Yeah. So from your perspective, getting back to your role, what do you consider an art director's position? Like what do you do as the art director?
Well, I mean, what an art director is, it kind of depends on the studio that you're in, right? It's like these titles, they mean different things in different studios. So for an art director on Fallout 76, I suppose what that means is, of course, you're working with designers, right, to expand the game, expand the lore, while still making sure that we maintain a visual cohesion with the Fallout universe. We don't stray too far out, right? Me specifically, I do that. I'm fortunate enough to be able to theme the Atomic Shop, the weeks for the Atomic Shop. I'm able to contribute a lot of ideas for the items that go in for those weeks, and work with animators and designers and fleshing those out more fully. It's kind of one of the unique things I think about working for Bethesda, and that's kind of why I touched on the role being different in different studios. With Bethesda, it's such a creative and organic experience making these games that people don't need to feel like they are kind of pigeonholed into a specific role. You can write things, you can suggest things to artists, you can take on things that you may not have access to in other studios and contribute. So I don't know if that answers your question. I'm kind of talking now, but
I do need to give a 2-year apology to one of our artists who came up with an excellent name for the weapon that Graham uses. He wanted to name it the Graham Slam, which, in retrospect, was an amazing name.
That's an awesome.
And we really should add a legendary variant of it that's named that, because speaking of writers, or artists contributing in other ways.
Nice. So what other things have you drawn inspiration from, and your team, when it comes to things like local history around West Virginia, or some of the weapons, or some of the things around even Night of the Moth? Like, are there specific? Can you think of specific examples of some of the local flavor, or some of the local, historical bits that you've kind of pulled inspiration from?
Just for Carl or for myself?
For you, for John, for the art inspiration.
Yeah, so of course, first thing is of course steeping yourself in the Fallout lore so that you understand where all these things came from. On a personal level, I love movies. I love watching films. I watch tons of films every week, and the older the better, right? So 40s, 50s. And so I'll sometimes be watching those and just sort of get, hey, that's kind of neat. What would happen if that was placed in a post-apocalyptic universe like Fallout? How would that change? For Carl's event, Amazon's got some cool documentaries on the Mothman. Get on there and watch those and kind of learn what the history is with the legend, and that prompts ideas as well. So I think kind of an open-ended answer to your question is you just got to keep eyes open, and because you never know where you're going to get inspiration from. It could really be anything.
Yeah, so you kind of just keep the feelers open, just kind of pull from everywhere.
Oh yeah, and keep it open.
Yeah.
What about? So, do you look at West Virginia history as well with the Appalachian Thunderpipe, rather?
Apple at you. Just gonna throw an apple at you.
Dave corrected me several times. In the first episode of our podcast, I called it Appalachia, and I was corrected quickly. But like the Appalachian Thunderpipe is a great design. Do you look at, Civil War era kind of things to shape some of your designs?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Sort of delving into the history of West Virginia, looking into like Civil War era designs, like the cart mounted, Gatling guns in the case of this weapon. Merging those with our handheld crank Gatling gun and seeing what comes out of that just through experimenting. Hey, what would this look like? And then sort of previewing it in 3D if we want to take it any further. So, just sort of, I guess it's kind of a collage of ideas and tidbits of history and bits of the game, and kind of mix them up and see what comes out.
Yeah, I mean, it goes the same for the content we write too. We have a big kind of master list of holidays and kind of special events that are specific to West Virginia. And whenever it comes time to start thinking through ideas, we go back to that. I mean, I don't know how many people knew what Fashnacht was before 76. I know I certainly didn't.
I think a lot more people know now.
Yeah, I think there's a good chance of that. But there's a lot of unique culture from that region. So we try to sample that as much as we can.
Now, I had a question for John. So I had a little LinkedIn lurk because I didn't know too much about your background. And you wrote the initial script and storyboard and produced and directed the E3 2021 pit trailer from start to finish. And we know you cannot talk about that at all. But from an art standpoint, what is it like to revisit a classic Fallout location like the pit?
Well, I mean, it's exciting and it's daunting at the same time, right? I mean, it was done so well, and it resonated with fans so deeply. You know, the first impression is like, oh man, I hope we don't mess it up. You know, we not that we would, but it's, you know, it's very intimidating, I suppose, and it's trying to figure out what the core elements of that content was. What are the things that made that the pit, you know, and sort of working that out with the other disciplines to come up with what we're doing.
Is the pit some kind of concert venue? I don't. It's never heard of it. That's my way of saying we're probably not going to say anything else about the pit.
Right.
Like, I totally understand the human response of like, oh, this is a big responsibility. You're going to take it seriously, right? Like, oh, you feel like you really got to do a good job with it. I
mean, it kind of feels like that for everything we do, right? Like, it's Fallout has such a legacy to it. You know, both before the modern games and during it. It's we never want to disappoint. So it's it's always a high bar to live up to. Yeah.
Well, Ken, what do you say we move on to some of the Night of the Moth questions?
Let's do that.
I want to make sure that we get time to do that. So, this is for either of you guys. Let's just open up the questions with, first of all, what is the story of the Night of the Moth? What can you tell us about this?
Sure. So I mentioned this a little bit before when we were playing through it, but it is focusing on a new sub-faction of the cultists that we call the Wise Mothman's Enlightened. They are... One of the reasons we went with that direction is that we wanted to keep the cultists that you encounter in West Virginia a hostile faction. We didn't want to kind of dance the line between sometimes you're helping them and sometimes you're murdering all of them. So we wanted to go a route that still captured that kind of creepy, not quite trustworthy cult vibe, while also presenting them in a manner that the player could walk up and have a conversation with them without getting into a fight. But that had kind of led us down this route of being able to create a pretty interesting dynamic between the two different cults and their belief system. So the Wise Mothman, the Enlightened, they don't see the Mothman as a god, which is, you know, a big part of what the cultists that are in the game right now. They always refer to him as Holy Mothman, and they speak about him like some otherworldly presence. They see the Wise Mothman as basically their guru. He's kind of their guide to all things, to life, to wisdom. And so we just started to really build characters around the difference in that thought. That we have one section of people who saw, the vision that about the bombs, about what they call the flood. They turned that into kind of a more manic and violent group of people. And then we have the enlightened who see themselves as a bit more of the educated scholars of the Mothman's teaching. So, kind of forget what the question was, but I hope that. Yeah, that addressed it.
No, that answers there.
Yeah. You're having these divisions, and I'm sure we're going to start to understand more of how those divisions are fleshed out, how they came about, that kind of stuff as things continue to develop. And as we read more into like the little, drops of information in the story that we, in the game that we pick up and, dig into the lore of it, which is the juicy bits that I love to dig into. Now, this is one of those things that I've been wondering. Mothman stuff has been popular for a long time. There's movies about the Mothman, and it's one of those cultural lore things, especially in the United States, that we've all been familiar with for a few decades at least. But when Fallout 76 started, we learned, you're working cryptids in, and the Mothman was a big thing. But did the team, and did you guys in particular know that it would become this popular? That, I mean, there are Fallout 76 fans that go to, like, they take pilgrimages and send pictures of the Mothman statue's butt.
They may actually be cultists.
Like this has become a very big thing. Did you realize it become this big?
So I remember when I came into the project, the Mothman had been designed and implemented already by that point, and we were doing a play test for him. And it was where we were one of the engineers who worked on it had, was designing the pop up and disappear type mechanic, and we were play testing internally. And I remember saying, and it was so arrogant of me as a person who just came in as like a brand new person, saying, I think this character is going to be iconic for the series. I kind of patted myself on the back when it became popular. I was like, I called it, I knew it, because it's just such a great like the 76 interpretation of him is such an awesome character design. I've got he's actually, you might be able to see him right there. So I was just, as a wonder-filled fan playing the content and not being a part of it, I kind of felt like it's going to be huge. He's so awesome. But unfortunately, I can't really speak to the process of putting him in there, or the thoughts on that, because when I came in, I was already gushing over him. So,
John, do you have any thoughts?
I don't think anybody knew that Mothman, well, Carl, that anybody else knew that Mothman was going to be so popular. Our fans love the Mothman, so it certainly resonates with them. I hadn't heard too much about the Mothman before we had started 76. Mm-hmm. But then, started doing some research and watching some documentaries. I was like, wow, this is a thing. And, the whole Mothman Festival in Point Pleasant, it's really cool.
I think the Fallout community, too, has really amplified how popular that cryptid was to begin with. I mean, I see so much fan art constantly on Twitter from all over the world, with like different interpretations of, there's Mothman in like a suit in an anime style. There's like a chunky, fuzzy one, like in a comic drinking coffee. It's wild.
I'm going to need somebody to send me some images, because I'm not familiar with the anime Mothman. That is right up my alley.
I follow them.
Love the Mothman. Like, it's a big thing over there now. It's like, yeah.
Like the Japanese Fallout community, the Fallout 76 community is huge, and they do some crazy, awesome fan art and camp builds.
I love seeing what they do on Twitter.
Yeah, it's insane.
It's absolutely crazy.
It's a lot of talent. It's really cool stuff. So getting back to the lore stuff, I've got another lore question. I probably should have done this one next, but I just wanted to do the popular Mothman one, because I've just been wondering about that. But speaking of the cult of the Mothman in the game, now we know that has evolved from a group of people who believed in like the creepy myth of the prophetic vision, and they were kind of pre-war, right? The origins of
they started pre-war, and survivors survived thanks to the vision that Brother Charles received. And if that name Charles sounds familiar, there is a certain character who is in the Mothman Equinox who happens to share that same name. So there's that said, you won't get much out of him in terms of dialogue. But they were a pre-war group that transcended into kind of that found footage style storytelling that we had at the beginning of Fallout 76. And then we internally were super excited when NPCs were introduced to be able to see actual cultists in game as well, and to see how they kind of changed over the 25 years since the bombs drop.
Yeah, and so that's where my question is going. It's like, over that time, they went from just being kind of this creepy, they just believed in this kind of myth, kind of not particularly dangerous group of people who just believed in this thing, to becoming much more extremist and dangerous, like so many things do in the wasteland, right? Was there a specific event or something that led to that, or was it just the time and the dangerous qualities of the wasteland that just kind of led people to become more extreme?
Well, I've got my own theories, but the thing that's interesting about writing lore is that often it's collaborative, and sometimes that collaboration is by accident. Even you're writing one thing and it happens to mesh up against something else that someone else has written. So for me, my major impact on lore is this new edition of the Enlightened, and so I explored back into some of the earlier kind of ideas that were happening, and the earlier arguments between them to kind of create this new sub-faction of it. But I would not be the source of information on the hostile cultists, the ones that we fight throughout Appalachia. There's a ton of great lore there. And great minds behind it. So this was, in some ways, this was a way of introducing the cult element without, I think, giving away too much of what makes them mysterious and interesting, while still kind of, letting you. Is there a jelly bean situation? Do we have to spin for a donation?
No, you guys keep going. I got it. Sage, shout out for the donation. I had to do the jelly bean spin because we got a donation. So
okay.
I've landed on coconut or spoiled milk, and I know it's going to be something awful.
Yep, fingers crossed on spoiled milk.
Oh boy.
Probably.
It's not looking great. Anyway.
I wasn't disappointed.
Okay.
Thank you, Sage.
Yeah, so, There is history for sure. There is a lot written that's in game. There's a lot written that's out of game, and it's not something that I think, even if I did have all the answers, I'd still hesitate to bring it all in, because there's a certain level of mystery that makes that kind of content so interesting, and we try to keep that in there as much as we can.
Yeah, I remember last year when we had Farrad on here. That was something that he said, a lot of the times he knows in his head what the full story is, but he'll purposely delete things because he likes that mystery to exist, so that we think about it and conjecture and come up with our own stories and lore and that kind of thing.
Absolutely. And sometimes it ends up going in exactly the way you thought from the very beginning. And sometimes even fans' kind of participation in that story will start to let it grow and evolve in different ways. I think the popularity in general of cultists exceeded, I think, our expectations. So, the fan desire to see more of that is why we did something like Mothman Equinox. It came from that desire to want to participate in that more.
Yeah, people like the creepy stuff.
Creepy stuff is good. Yeah, I like creepy stuff.
Now, speaking about prophecy and Mothman. And maybe there's nothing you can tell us about it. Maybe things haven't been written yet. But is there something that the Wise Mothman is trying to warn us about?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Now, I can summarize that as there's many things he's trying to warn us about. But I will say that in general, he is communicating for a purpose. There's a reason he lands and he wants to talk to us. Now, I don't want to get anybody's hopes up. That doesn't mean you're ever going to know what that is, or we're ever going to explore that. But those are the types of thoughts we keep in the back of our head. Is like the motivations are a huge part of how we write a character. And a lot of the times you will never even know what those motivations were. Maybe a character has a sister that we never even talk about. No, the Mothman does not have a sister. I'm sorry. But
shrubbery. He's just shrubberies and just wants a nice little hedge.
Right. Shrubbery. But in terms of what, when we're thinking about, okay, what are some of the things that maybe these characters feel like they've heard from the Mothman? We start with, well, what is the Mothman actually trying to tell them? But I don't want that to seem like that's some big teaser for future content or anything. It's just the answer is yes. We know what the Mothman was trying to tell them. That doesn't mean the players are ever going to find out. But there's some little hints sprinkled throughout for some smaller elements. I'll say that certain characters may have heard certain things from him that are more true than others, or their interpretations of it are incorrect in many ways.
Do you know what my theory has always been?
What's that?
When we first emerge from the vault, he's watching us but doesn't touch us. It's when we start doing things in the world and killing creatures and possibly nuking the world space that he gets a little cranky.
He's Mother Nature's wrath.
So I'm thinking that he's watching what we're doing, and oftentimes he's not satisfied with what we're doing.
And we should
that kind of speculation, that I think that's the power of shrouding something in mystery like that.
Right. And we should clarify the difference too between the Mothman, the red-eyed Mothman, the more standard version of it, and the Wise Mothman as a separate character. And what are their origins? How did they come to be? Maybe we know, but it's not the type of thing we explore yet, or ever.
Yeah. Ken, did you have any questions that you wanted to get to before I know we only have so much time, but
yeah, we had a particularly one of the things that we wanted to talk about was so the Blue Ridge Caravan Company that Carl, you had quite a lot to do with. We wanted to talk about that a little bit. So you were the primary designer for that. It has a lot of memorable characters, most notably Ares. For people who maybe did the event but maybe didn't pay attention to the lore and backstory, how did the Caravan Company form?
Oh, yes, that is in the lore. So this is not headcanon or speculation. But they were formed out of Joanna Mayfield, who was running a inherited trucking company pre-war, and the trucking company was just called the Blue Ridge Trucking Company, and it ran trucks up and down the Blue Ridge Highway and all over the Appalachia region. Post-war, as a business first person, Joanna turned that business into a Brahmin shipping company instead, and put the cargo on the back of Brahmins and tried to continue kind of life as she knew it before the bombs. And the company and the organization kind of grew around that. It ends up becoming more of a protection company than it is a shipping company. They provide protection for traders that are trying to sell their wares throughout the region. So a lot of the characters who are actually Blue Ridge are the guards themselves, Ares being one of them, but there's a handful of others, such as Tommy Ten Toes of the Weekend Vendor fame. Or it's not Weekend, I'm sorry. It's Wednesday. When does Minerva show up? It's been a while since I got to get Minerva deals. Anyway, players know. Yeah.
Yell in chat if you know.
yes, so that I can actually get some new deals from Minerva. But they're more of hired help to fight off the baddies as they're shipping goods across the wasteland.
I love that group. That's been one of my favorite groups in 76, the Blue Ridge Caravan. It feels so, I get it. It feels so believable in a post-apocalyptic world.
In no small part because of its logo. It has such a good logo. Just when I first saw it, I was like, this looks like a organic coffee bean company that I would buy. It looks great, but
best part of waking up is Blue Ridge in your cup.
Yeah,
nice.
Yeah, it looks like you have a T-shirt with it on there.
Yeah.
Who is Ares?
Who is Ares? That's a good question. So I mentioned before that sometimes you write something and you know the full story in your head ahead of that content going into the game. And then sometimes that content gets to go into the game. And that is the case with Ares. This is a spoiler for Steel Rain and for certain other pieces of content, but he is the character Calvin Van Lowe. A lot of players have figured this out already. The wiki, I mean, you can't even go to Ares' page without it just redirecting you to Calvin Van Lowe at this point. So I think it's pretty widespread knowledge. But from the very beginning, we wanted to, when we did the Lying Low storyline, we originally had Calvin be dead at the end of it. You find Calvin's corpse. And we wanted to try to have a story that did not end, with you discovering that the character you've been listening to on the holotapes has died, both out of just having a different kind of resolution than other content that we had already done, but also just to leave some air of mystery to it. So it was really gratifying for me to finally get to reveal that, hey, this character weirdo in the mask Ares, he's also this character from this earlier content that came out.
Yeah, it must be. Was it something that you had an idea in terms of bridging the Wastelander story into this and using him as kind of a bridging character?
I'd say it was more of a now or never type of thing. It was the same thing with even introducing a character that was secretly him. I had never necessarily anticipated that he would be a caravan guard as the job that he comes back into the game as, but I was already building riding shotgun, and I said, I need a group of characters. It's do this now or do this never, put the character in there. And when it came to Steel Rain, we had a point where we needed to be interacting with settlers, where it made sense that the Blue Ridge Company was involved. So I said, now we could put Ares in, and why don't I just reveal it now? Because we're gonna the focus will move on, other characters will be introduced. So you want to be able to give resolution to that story. I'd say it's a rare opportunity to get that chance to actually get the full thing in game, rather than kind of staying as your own personal story.
It's a great evolution too, in terms of a character that we hear a lot about, but don't get a chance to meet. So he gets this really interesting character arc in terms of how he started, what he went through and endured. It's interesting to see him as one of the few surviving characters that you meet after all he went through.
Yeah, it was definitely. Did not think I was going to get the chance to do that. So I was very happy that I did.
Oh, that's awesome. I think that's Tom. Did you have any more questions?
What else did I have in here? I know I had some others. Oh gosh, I don't remember which ones I put in. We have a big document full of all these questions, but they all get jumbled into the same document.
Maybe to
question for you guys. What's the most notable experience that's happened to you while playing Fallout 76? Wow. Stands out in your mind the most?
Oh,
wow! Most notable experience. Well, I can share when the first thing that I was really the big, like this goes way back, but the first thing that was, and this isn't specific to an event in the game, it was just the game itself. My wife and I, when we first started dating, one of the things that we bonded over was playing video games. And we started dating 13, 14 years ago. And so Fallout 3 was new early in our relationship. And she liked playing video games too, but she had never played any Bethesda games. And so I was able to introduce her to Fallout. And then I was playing Fallout, and then she was playing Fallout. I handed her the controller eventually. It became one of those things where she would help make the decisions, but I would play. And then eventually she was playing and I was watching. And so she ended up playing, and then she ended up playing other Fallout games and, New Vegas and Fallout 4. So when 76 came out, we actually got to play the game together. And so 76 became one of those games where it was just when it came out, it was like, we're both in a Fallout game at the same time. This is amazing. It was just like the feeling of that was like, and it's not specific to a specific thing happening in the game. It was just being able to play in a Fallout game with my wife simultaneously was just, it wasn't something I ever expected to do. And so that was by itself an amazing thing.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
For me, I've never played an online game of any kind in my entire life. I've played a ton of PC games. I've been a PC gamer since the mid-90s. And when I first heard that 76 was an online game, my immediately thought was some of the YouTube videos I've seen about Call of Duty. And I tend to be a fairly casual player. At the end of my workday, I didn't want to go into a world and then have a 12-year-old just yelling obscenities at me to relax. But it hit home for me, I think, on the second day when I was in game walking around. And, a lot of people come into the game now won't ever experience the game the same way that we did in year one, with no NPCs and area chat always on, so area voice. So walking around, I heard someone talking in the distance, and it becomes a question of is this person going to shank me, or could it be a friend? Which made it a very real experience for me. So I decided the hell with it. So I went over. We started talking and hanging out. and that led to meeting more people and making friends. And amongst ourselves, we started role playing. We had a caravan company called the Appalachia Trading Company, and it was the same kind of thing where we were more guards protecting travel routes. So we would role play a game, kind of walking routes. And that ended up inspiring what became the story for the podcast. So I think for me, this game opened me up to connecting with people in a way that I never had before, in a way that really enriched my life. And I'm forever grateful for.
I can talk about specifics. When and this has happened a few times. When Wastelanders came out, every time there's been a major update to the game where actual locations have changed. And I've played enough to be familiar with the location and then to see the location actually shift as if time has passed and the world has changed. That to me is very interesting every time, especially when I'm not told ahead of time about what's going to change, even in little ways. Rediscovering a world that I'm familiar with already, only to go back to a location and not know what's going to be changed, I find is very interesting. So if I could give my 2 cents to two guys working on this game, it would be do things like that and don't tell us that they're coming.
Yeah,
because that stuff is amazing. Like going to where the crash space station is, and then going, oh, the raiders are going to build a base here, and then expecting to go find a raider base is cool because now I get to explore a raider base, and there's going to be a bunch of stories and quests and things to explore here. I know that I'm going to get to experience that awesome, but then stumbling into a building nearby that I didn't know was going to be changed, and all of a sudden there's differences there, and I didn't expect that. That's even cooler because I discovered it on my own, right? Because the people who've been playing this game have been playing it, so many of us, a long time, and we kind of know what every little shack looks like. We know what every little cave looks like, but it would be really cool to stumble into that little shack because we're just grinding, we're just trying to collect, glue, and then going, wait a minute, this door wasn't here before.
Yeah, like a fantastic example of what you guys did is when the Venlo quest line dropped, and you were introducing the sheep squatch, the way in which it was slowly done, with you stumbling on, a pile of dead cow carcasses, and then you hear something in your distance, and you're like, what the hell is that? And then you meet the imposter, and you're like, okay, where's the real deal? And then I remember the day that it dropped in game and everyone was freaking out online, like, oh my God, it's real. Like, look at this thing. And we fought it and it was terrifying. And the way in which that slowly evolved and we're looking for it, but we can't find it, was masterful. Beautifully done.
Yeah, I will say that was not an accident. That was really well planned out. And I need to give a shout out to our level design team. We tell really cool stories here at Bethesda, but some of the best stories, some of my favorite stories from past games have actually come from the level design team and then environmental storytelling. Our team does it like no one else. It's absolutely crazy.
Absolutely. And even in the single player games, the environmental storytelling and discovering things on my own are some of my favorite things to do in those games. So just secret updates, secret storytelling.
Pipe is life.
Even just changing the location of stuff, even if like on the next update, all of a sudden a place where I expect mole miners to be, they're scorched there. And now I'm wondering, why are they scorched here? There's always mole miners here. Like little things like that will get the community talking and wondering what's going on. Like we're school kids talking about the level warp we found in Mario level 4-2, like that kind of stuff. Like it goes a long way because it just makes us start wondering about things. And
we'll place a mug somewhere in the world on your behalf that will just be there now. And
Tom will be able to dedicate like 3 episodes to what is going on with the mug.
What's going on with the mug? Or just a robot that just wanders around with like a little banner. Like that just has something scrawled on it. Like people would be like, what does the little scrawled banner on this new robot wandering around the wasteland mean? Like tiny little updates like that. Like little things like that will go like a long way.
And sometimes we'll go crazy over things that may end up being nothing. And I feel like you guys just sit back and like, look at these guys go. A great example of that is when the Standing Stones dropped, and there are like people in the army who specialize in decrypting, taking a look at the designs on the Standing Stones and saying, well, this and maybe it aligns to different points of the map, and we're going to find like that. Yeah.
Or a radio transmission that has like Morse code in it that translates into some cryptic message that's just like barely translatable to something that's a hint about some tiny little thing. And the community would go nuts about it. And we would spend so much time trying to figure out what it is.
We do.
But like those tiny little things are probably not that hard to implement in a game in a tiny little patch, but would buy you so much actual attention from the community. That's my 2 cents.
Yeah, I will say it's an amazing thing to put in effort to a 2-part massive storyline surrounding the Brotherhood of Steel, only for most people to be talking about a pipe that's sticking out of the ground with a note next to it.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. And maybe these little things lead up to the next big one. But like those little things are probably, a fraction of the amount of time it takes to develop that big thing, but would go a long way to giving people something to, invest their attention in.
There literally now is a Pipe is Life cult group, role players who that's all that they're about. They follow the way of the pipe, and it's interesting.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
We have an awesome community.
Yes. That we do.
Yeah. So that's my thought. But yeah, we love what you guys do. We're always, if you can't tell, we're hanging on every little detail because we're just so excited about every little thing that comes out. So,
and now I'm terrified about everything that I said during this. John laughs knowing that I'm doomed coming out of this.
Oh man, I've been chatting with Mark. Yeah.
Yeah,
no, it's awesome. It's awesome to talk with fellow gamers, especially gamers who love what the games that we're privileged enough to make. Games as a service, something ongoing, continuing, evolving the story. I think it's a very powerful tool, and it's great to be able to talk to folks that enjoy that.
Yeah, and this is a big pleasure for us too to get a little bit more insight into the process, the behind the scenes. So, guys, for your time talking with us. Andy, you have any other thoughts or questions?
No, that was it. The one thing I wanted to remind everybody while we're still here, Follow for Hope is going all the way through next weekend. We have some really amazing programming coming up. We've got the Dweller Drop that we're going to be doing tomorrow night that Carl has competed in and actually kicked everybody's butt in. And I'm still convinced to this day that he used some kind of secret cheat code. Did really well there.
You can't prove it.
We got
a very raidery thing to do, Carl, by the way. It's a very raidery thing to do.
Carl's not going to be able to live that down now. And then next week, really the height of Follow for Hope is going to be our live production of A Christmas Carol. Pete Hines is going to be joining us as Jacob Marley, Wes Johnson as Ebenezer Scrooge, Jan Johns, Courtney Taylor. We've got just an entire roster of some amazing Bethesda voice actors joining us for that. That will be December 17th. That'll be kicking off on, so definitely don't miss that. We'll be going on here. Please support St. Jude. We are now, since the start of the stream, we've crossed another mark. We are at $45,267.54. We're almost halfway to our goal. And really, this community has really turned it up. Where we are now, we've paid for 2 life-saving surgeries for kids through St. Jude. So the community is literally funding life-saving surgery, which is awesome.
That's amazing.
That's all we got.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me on here.
Thank you both so much for doing this.
To plug into everything else we're doing, check out robotsradio.net. Also, look up the Robots Radio YouTube for videos about Fallout and other things. And